Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And oh my word, am I exhausted. Tonight, hold on just a moment. Oh God. Sorry. Getting these evening naps like I'm some sort of ancient grandpa. It's nice to get sleep where you can, but oh my goodness, they make me feel just even more tired. Any new foods added to the list? Not today. No, luckily, shoyu flavored ramen is still relatively safe. What's up, Andrew? Shoyu flavored ramen is still relatively safe. What else did I eat today? I had some Lactaid, so I had a slice of pizza. That was desirable, I guess. I don't know. It's an adventure. Still an adventure, and I hate it. But I have people are saying spicy food, so I'm gonna make some chili. I'm gonna make some chili with these short ribs that I have. We're gonna try that. The slow cooked pork didn't work out well, but the last time I made chili, it was good. And the chili I had at 2 restaurants now has been okay. So maybe there's just enough other crap in the in with the meat that the fat is kind of distributed enough where it's just kind of in the background. And I don't notice it as much. Maybe I don't know. But I'm going to do some beef short rib chili. That should be delicious anyway. I mean, who cares? Beef short ribs are good. So with that said, nothing new added to the list today. God. I was on Critical Drinker Show earlier. Open bar was great. Good fun. Oh, sorry. Still working the bugs out of the old system, I guess. Was on with Mahler and Heel versus Babyface and Chrissy Meyer. Had a great time over there. Much love to those chaps across the pond. They're doing, of course, great work entertaining us all and helping us understand the entertainment that we consume otherwise. And it was a good pleasure to be with them. And then and here we are. Tomorrow is a very busy day for me. I will wake up and be on Eric Hunley's show at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Central Time. And then after that, Friday Night Tights will be tomorrow in the afternoon. I think they start around 4 p.m. Central Time. Let's see. And I think Mr. Andrew Smith will be on tomorrow night at 11 p.m. here. I think that's the plan. So three live streams tomorrow that I'll be on. And we should close out this wonderful week with an interview with Gunbro from the Chandler Halderson trial. And we should have a fun time. We're gonna get good. We'll be fully unbreaded on the stream. So that's that. But in the meanwhile, I will be exhausted the entire time today and tomorrow, I'm sure. Mr. Robert Barnes should be joining us at some point here. I'm not quite sure exactly when he'll be able to hop on, but seems to be as soon as he's ready, he'll pop in here, and so that'll be great. As for next week, a new trial is starting up. Oh my gosh. Next week, new trial is starting. It is the Curtis Reeves trial. And it looks like if I am to host that here, that Mr. Andrew Branca may join me for the trial since he'll be watching it live. It's always fun to have someone who is going to be watching the whole thing live. So might cover that one. I'm not 100% sure. I want to cover it, or I want to cover it, but I'm not 100% sure I can with my schedule just yet. I've got to just check with Lady Racket. So I should know. I think opening arguments are scheduled for Tuesday, or expected to start Tuesday, jury selection on Monday. So Curtis Reeve, not to be confused with Christopher Reeve, who was defeated by a horse. But Curtis Reeve was a man, a former law enforcement, I believe, who shot a man in a movie theater who threw popcorn at him, and then he shot him in self-defense. Now, it's kind of an interesting case because technically there's a weird artifact of Florida law, which so here's the self-defense, because I mean, defending yourself from popcorn, vicious attack, assaulted popcorn with a gun doesn't seem to fly in most places. It's not like on the normal menu of popcorn flies at you, so bullets fly back, right? You pull out the 6-shooter and put them down. It's not how things normally go. However, however, with Florida, there are two things. One, Florida allows for a self-defense claim against a felony level battery, a felony being committed against a person, a felony crime against a person. You can use deadly force to respond to that. And while throwing popcorn would only typically be a misdemeanor assault or battery under Florida law, apparently, if the victim is sufficiently aged, then there is an accelerator on the claim that turns a misdemeanor assault into a felony, probably because Florida is populated by all of the old people. So this guy was old enough to qualify as a felony victim by nature of his age. Therefore, the simple battery of a popcorn granule hitting him has become a felony. And so therefore, does he then have the right to pull out a gun and defend himself against popcorn with deadly force? And that's a wild thing. That's a wild thing, but it might actually be legit. And that is likely what's going to be argued. Oh my gosh, I can move these video clips around. I never knew this. I can put the useful ones up top. Oh, amazing. Okay. Look at that. Oh man. I'm learning about this stupid StreamYard. I doubt it. You shut your whore mouth. Okay. Okay. Now I'm redoing the order of all my little clips because I didn't know that I could do this. I feel like a new man. All right. So now that we got some of those in order, there is a new thing. Should we do this while we wait for Mr. Barnes? I think this is a good idea because I don't know that he 100% wants to be on when we do this segment anyway. I haven't asked him. Let's see what we got here. I'm Brad. That works. That'll do. All right, it's time for our daily bread. Someone has got to send me the daily bread prayer. The daily bread prayer. I've seen it. I saw it. Someone super chatted it on Critical Drinker. So here we go. We've got page 448. Oh, this is gonna be a good one. I already know what's on this page. This is one of those pages. So here we go. Let's do it. Let's do this. We'll keep Mr. Barnes with his innocence, and we will. So here we go. This is our daily bread. Remember, to the people who yelled at me that I did not do the correct page yesterday, we do the PDF number page. And I do have a plan for the blank pages and the title page and all that. But that all will be revealed in time, my children. This is a reading from the Book of Harris. Asians. Shoot all the bikes, too. Shoot all the Asian programmers and students and entertainers. Hunt Asians like rats. Hunt all the Asians out. Kill every... I don't know if I should do this so early in the show, thinking about it. This is... Maybe we're going to save this for later in the show. Maybe after the 2-hour mark. After thinking about this, let's do that. This page is a little spicy. That's a preview of the page. We'll have to wait until a little bit later in the show, I think, on that one. I think when the YouTube reviewer comes in, they're like, kill all the Asians. I don't know about that. They may not get the joke. The joke is that it was written by a crazy man. So we'll do that later. But you've now gotten a preview of the unbreaded thing. That's right. Oh boy. Yeah. That's a tough one. We'll have to figure out some of these segments. Okay. What else do we have over here? We've got various. Ryan, the editor, has been making all sorts of clips. Let's see. Let's get this one.
And I have a shotgun. Let me prove it.
Damn. So there's that.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
That's good. We got to get the one with the guts theme. That one's the best one. Flash uses that one, and it's a little longer, but man, it's amazing. So yeah, we've got clips. We got overlays. We got a ricadalaw.locals.com overlay. That's nice. Okay. Let me read some of the super chats here. Oh, let me get this out of the way too. There is no Vic Mignogna news. Oh, yes, there's Echo. Stupid. There we go.
That's a huge bitch.
I think we're going to have some uses for that one. I can foresee that. I see the future. Okay. Let me get this out of the way. There is no Vic Mignogna news today. Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Central Time are when the court releases their opinions. When the Second Court of Appeals in Texas releases their opinions. If you're interested in looking up the Vic news, it's really, really simple. You can check this every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Go to Google, type in Texas Second Court Appeals, hit enter. It'll be the TJB, Texas Judicial Branch, Second Court of Appeals. And you click on that and you click on released orders and opinions and then click on the date. And once it's 9:30 Central Time, the new date will pop up in their little grid and you can check it for yourself. But there is no Vic news to talk about with that. But I do have good news. Mr. Robert Barnes has arrived. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. How you been?
Busy. And recovering from I had COVID earlier in January, which sucked.
Oh, yeah. I bet that was just a peach. I know it was for me.
Yeah, I mean, how much did it hit you?
I was basically in bed for the good part of about 8 days.
Yeah.
Felt like I had been in a fist fight, you got
Do you have like this? I had the stabbing headache is what was the biggest drag for me.
Yeah, I had a stabbing headache a little bit, but for me, so I would get really tired, really achy, and then I would lay in bed so long that I would start to get sore from being in bed laying down, and I would feel like even worse. Yeah, best way I could describe it is like if you like fall down the stairs, or if someone just like knocks you down and then kicks the crap out of your ribs. That's what I felt like. And then I got over it, and that was good.
Yeah, now you have natural immunity.
Yeah, although you probably haven't heard me whining about this, but what I developed, so I had that last year. It was October or something. It was around the Rittenhouse trial, but was not during the trial, thank goodness. But what I got this year, several months later, is now everything tastes bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like meat. Just pretty much what I eat entirely is just meat all day. And that it tastes terrible. Cooked meat tastes bad. Cooked chicken, cooked pork, beef is hit or miss. But yeah, and then eggs are nasty. Pretty much anything that I would normally eat is all bad right now. So I'm living on ramen and cereal.
Yeah. So it's not a loss of taste, it's that it actually tastes bad.
Yeah, there's the loss of taste is a little more common, and then there's a subset of that. It's like the same root cause of it, something with the smelling nerves or whatever, the olfactory nerves, and where your taste actually changes dramatically, and things taste like best I can describe is kind of like sewagey. It's really yeah, it's really awful. Oh, and onions are the worst. Like onions make me want to die. We do this homeschool co-op, and two of my kids are in the cooking class. And so they made fried rice today. They're like, "Oh, Dad, we learned how to make fried rice today." And I'm like, "Oh, that's good." Oh God, so much onion.
Yeah.
But
man, that is rough. And does it go away at some point, or do you what's the popular diagnosis?
Supposed to. Yeah, it's supposed to go away after a couple. It could be a couple weeks. It could be a couple months. So who knows?
Oof.
But cold sandwiches, cold cut sandwiches are fine. That's good. But yeah, sausages are all bad. I think it's just the level of fat for the meat fat is where it seems to be the main issue. But here's hoping that you don't run into any of that, because it's just irritating.
Yeah.
I mean,
no doubt about that.
But I'm glad to hear you made your recovery. That's good.
Yeah. It was about a week of utter misery, and then was able to bounce back.
Well, good. And you bounce back in time for one of the funniest things that's been going on, which is the honkening.
Yes.
Which your compatriot Viva has been out covering, which is great.
He's done a really good job of it. It's kind of like been a natural. It's been interesting watching how natural it is for him to be an on the street reporter. I mean, it was fascinating how many people knew him. I mean, not like that big of a shock, but these are from truckers from all over Canada. And that, they're going up and hugging him and all the rest, which was, that was fun to see. But yeah, I mean, he's really done a good job of being, I mean, I think really the best on the ground reporter. There's been other people that have, live broadcast it, but in part because he's well known and in that particular community, and then in part because he's just kind of a natural. He has a natural curiosity. He's sociable. He's not antagonistic.
Well, yeah, he's freedom oriented, which helps with the crowd as well. If they know him, they can easily trust that he's not going to be someone out there trying to get a gotcha on him or make them look stupid. Like if CNN pulled up or something.
Right. Well, the version of CNN is CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Right. I don't acknowledge the existence of Canadian companies. So so yeah, I'm really glad you were able to come on tonight. There was because I had invited you on for some trial coverage with Theodore Edgecombe. And so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how that case kind of played out. That was in Wisconsin, and you have quite a strong familiarity with Wisconsin law. Plus, there were some comments you made about B. Ivory, who I conceded on Twitter that he got better than what his client deserved. So he I guess did a good job, even though I thought personally that he put on a relatively terrible in-court performance. So I wanted to talk to you about that because, I heard you mentioning some things, jury selection and stuff. So I wanted to get your take there. Plus the Chandler Halderson trial was up in Wisconsin as well.
What is that one about?
That's the kid who chopped up his parents.
Oh yeah. That's why I've avoided that. Yeah, I remember now.
Okay, well, I got to know there's a question that needs
there's
to
a
be
lot.
asked.
Wisconsin's the serial killer per capita capital of the world, by the way.
Yeah, it's
John Wayne Gacy was born there. The original Silence of the Lambs guy was from Wisconsin.
Dahmer was there, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, Dahmer's. I knew people who knew Dahmer.
Born there. Yeah. Wild. But no, the question that I have for you is, I guess in the theme of Dahmer, so the kid kills his parents and he chops them up. I swear his girlfriend helped. I don't know. I can't prove it, obviously, but do you think he took a bite?
Oh.
Because I've got a theory. They didn't recover all of them. Now he didn't have time to ingest that much people, but I think if you're at the level where you're already killing your own parents and chopping them up, I think there's a nibble that occurs. That's just my opinion. But
whenever I think of chopping up, I think of Fargo. Do you remember at the end where he's trying to stick that foot in through the shredder and then sees the cop and then looks at the foot in the shredder? That's classic.
It was a wild case. Like the testimony. First of all, I mean, they had this kid dead to rights from the start. It was and the defense they put up no plausible alternative theory. He had some public defenders. There's not a smash in any way on public defenders, but
they didn't have much. So they didn't try. Like I would think they would try. What were those twins? Remember those twin brothers?
Menendez.
Yeah,
the Menendez brothers.
Yep, I'd maybe try that because that was actually a creative defense that they had been tortured their whole lives, psychologically, sexual abuse. So there was no way to prove any of it. But that they were so it still didn't ultimately work because of issues with the trial, but at least they gave it a shot. I would think if you were going to create a defense, you'd have to almost come up with something like that. Now, and
I can
there'd
summarize
be almost possibility to it because the only way a kid usually ends up that crazy is if the parents weren't exactly good parents.
Right. Usually. Now they didn't do anything like that. Their defense boiled down to this. I want to remind the jury that reasonable doubt exists. Pretty sure that was a line from the opening statement.
They didn't try maybe a COVID thing. Maybe COVID drove him crazy and
It didn't do anything. And there was weird stuff in this case. Like, so he allegedly shoots and chops up his parents in the house and burns part of them in the fireplace. I mean, they found bone fragments and stuff like that. They couldn't directly link the bone fragments to the parents, but question is what other bone fragments are in there. I mean, who knows? But so they got all this stuff, but the girlfriend came and slept over on the couch next to the fireplace with him right after he's burned bodies in there. It's like, I mean, doesn't she wonder, like, the smell? There's got to be a mess of some sort. She brought a bunch of hydrogen peroxide over to help him clean up some blood because he cut his toe. And it was like, they showed the toe. It's this little tiny puncture on the edge of his toe. It's like, if you're cleaning up more than a drop of blood, you've got to be suspicious. But they didn't go after the girlfriend at all. I was most suspicious of her because the prosecution in their opening statement says, now you're going to hear from his girlfriend, Kat, and she did some things ended up helping him out with this, but she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't do anything wrong. I want to be very clear. She didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't trust you at all now.
Yep.
But that was kind of a wild case. It was interesting to the spectacle of it, because it was a really interesting fact set, very salacious, but the trial was boring as sin to watch.
Yeah.
It was very technical. They over prosecuted it to the point where, I mean, they just brought in witness after witness after witness. It's like, okay, we got it. But there's that one. And then there's the current case going on with the Waffle House shooter. I don't know if you've been following this guy at all.
I've only heard a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah. So this is a guy 4 years ago. He goes in, well, naked except for a jacket, an open jacket. And he ends up plugging 4 people, he shoots 6 people, 4 get killed at the Waffle House 3 a.m. in Nashville. And then the defense that they're running is the insanity defense. And this guy, he seems to be very crazy, like legitimately insane, not haha, he's crazy, he shot people, but he believed that Taylor Swift was having mind sex with him, and that God ordered him to go kill the Waffle House. And he was like, well, if God's telling me to do it, maybe when I show up, people won't be there. Was the logic apparently that was going through his head, which, I mean, I guess. But yeah, so he was on a mission from God to kill the Waffle House. But that case is wrapping up, I think, tomorrow. And so that guy, it'll be interesting, because he's either really guilty or not guilty because he's really crazy.
Right. And that means commitment, institutional commitment, right?
Yeah, I would think so. It's Tennessee. One of those states, though, they have a weird institutional or a weird insanity thing where the person doesn't get committed for insanity. And because there's like a guy who's raped a whole bunch of people and he keeps getting out.
I mean, I know there's some places that you get committed, but you can get released if the mental health hospital says you've been cured. But I wasn't aware of you can be not guilty by reason of insanity and then not be civilly committed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where that was. I saw that news story the other day. It's on the East Coast or the South. Oh shoot, there was that New York guy who got it.
I would say if that's popularly known that he wouldn't be institutionally committed, then they'll convict.
Yeah, I would think so. I'll find the other case and send it to you sometime. I covered it on a live stream a couple weeks back. Yeah, this guy's a monster, but they keep finding that he's insane, and they're like, well, we can't hold him, so he's out. We can't try him. It's like, wait.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed in any states. Because I mean, to my knowledge, all the states have civil commitment for and even if it isn't automatically triggered by the criminal case outcome, that they can separately institute initiate those procedures.
Right. Yeah. And well, I think the distinction on this one was not that they were found not guilty, but they were not fit to stand trial, and some law had maybe lapsed. And so then they weren't able to try them and had to let them go. It was a weird scenario, but it ended up with this guy who'd raped people going free. I do have something to show you real quick. This is the moment from my favorite moment of testimony from this Waffle House trial. So just a second, I'll pull it up. Oh wait, let me boost the volume a bit. Here we go. All right. So this is to give you an idea. See, this is the kind of trial we all need to be watching, because this is.
Did you ever look up?
Unfortunately, a moment I did glance up, I seen Mr. Ryan King's puny scrotum in that moment, because unfortunately he was unclothed, just the jacket.
But you could not see his face at that point.
No.
Right?
Poor guy's in there getting roasted live by this lady.
So this happened in the city of Nashville.
Yeah, it was in the city of Nashville, and
So it's
it
a
was
Davidson County state court trial.
yeah. There's quite a bit of there are quite a few people at the Waffle House at 3 a.m. You know, the clubs had just gotten out is the idea, and so because all the people in there, they look good. You know, they're all dressed nice and they look good, look like they'd been out on the town, and certainly she was because she came in heels and stuff like that, and she and her friends had been out all night, and so they were stopping to just grab some food at the Waffle House. She was waiting at the counter. She was not shot, but she played dead because some bullets came through and the glass shattered and hit her, and she dropped like between the the immobile bar stools or whatever and the counter, and she laid there. And as he came in, and then some superhero bursts out of the bathroom and tackles this guy and takes his gun. And that's probably what kept it down to a 4-person casualty, but it's a crazy case. Of course, the prosecutor in that case is not impressive. She can make a story about a mass shooting at a Waffle House be boring.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of that as a segue, just on in your experience, because you have way more trial experience than I do, and you're even trials where you're not actually where you're not lead counsel, you have your fingers in a lot of different actions just going on, consistently. So I wanted to ask your opinion on storytelling in the practice of law, because I mean, as I've watched these trials, you can tell very quickly who's good at putting together stories and who isn't. So I was kind of curious of your take on that.
I mean, I think mostly it's a lost art form, unfortunately. Very few lawyers are really good at it. I mean, the best that I've seen are generally plaintiffs' lawyers, high-quality plaintiffs' lawyers. They're usually the best at it. State prosecutors tend to be pretty weak. State defense attorneys, it depends on their level of sophistication. You know, your higher paid state defense lawyers can be good. Your other ones can be pretty pedestrian. On the federal side, they'll always be pretty quality. Not, great storytellers, but much better. Like I know when Good Logic was watching the the Maxwell case, he was startled by the disparity between it and the Rittenhouse trial in the sophistication of the prosecution. Their abilities to really, wield a story and present evidence and all of it. It was very, and that's because they're just so much better prepared. They also, in defense of prosecutors and public defenders, federal prosecutors handle far fewer cases. They may do one trial a year.
And they have a lot more investigative resources that go into putting together those cases too. So when they're getting a file, they're getting a much better picture typically of the criminal act and the probable cause that they're going to use to bring that person in.
And they usually, on average, will spend 2 weeks just preparing for that trial, or it may depend on the length of the trials, the length of their preparation, but that's the norm. Whereas state prosecutors are usually doing tons of stuff at the same time. They're even trying a case. But as a whole, your average state prosecutor is just pretty mediocre. Your average federal prosecutor, pretty solid. They have limitations, but not of, but much better still than state prosecutors. Average public defender will be usually pretty mediocre. Average, your what I call your street lawyers, most of them will be pretty pedestrian. You'll occasionally find some diamonds in the rough. It was interesting that in the Edgecombe trial that he mentioned Willie Gary. Willie Gary almost ended up being part of the Snipes case. Very prominent black plaintiff's lawyer out of Florida. I think he has like gold-plated toilets in his private airplane, that kind of thing.
One of those lawyers.
Yes. Yeah, he has kind of a voodoo reputation. But
that's what B. Ivory's trying to be.
Yeah, yes. The problem is, I'll give Ivory credit. I only watched the closing, but is that Ivory was using the components of a good close. It wasn't organized in a good close. But I thought, at least when I watched it, the two things that stood out was the prosecutor did. I was like, I'd heard just through the grapevine, that there was a lot of criticisms of the defense in trial and how Edgecombe testified and how his expert testified. But at least the prosecutor didn't go through any of that in any detail. So I was like, if just by watching close, which is what I occasionally do for these kind of trials, I don't have time to watch the trial. I was like, if I was just there for the close, I could see the jury giving less than first-degree homicide. Because speaking of storytelling, what the elements he had, like you want the jury to believe that they're doing something very significant, very important, that they're part of some monumental event in history to do your verdict. Hence the quotes, Bobby Kennedy and other people like that, references to other prominent cases in the news and so forth.
Well, we'll talk about that. I'll tell you about something along with that in just a minute, but please go on. With B. Ivory.
the second element is you want to appeal to emotion predominantly, not to sort of linear logic. We were taught as lawyers to believe that, they're just following the facts and applying the law. There's no jury that does that. And he did a lot of emotional appeal. It could have been much more sophisticated and much better, but I didn't see much of that from the prosecution by contrast. And then the third, he played into certain context very, very well. Even at the beginning, when he reminds them of that, you agreed flight doesn't mean guilt. That's why you were picked. That part of the routine. So he's putting him into that frame of mind, and then by using the visual of the knife, it's always good to use visuals. The way he did that in front of him, made that look scary and dramatic, even if it might have been inconsequential in the actual substantive evidence of the trial. And he skipped. Notice he spent almost no time on jury instructions. There are times to do that. He realized that was against him, so he
that would have been very much against him in that case. The best though is, and you may really get a kick out of this, you should watch B. Ivory Lamar's opening statement, because I think you'll find it familiar. He word for word lifts Johnny Cochran's opening statement. I mean, word for word, beat for beat. He just takes the OJ opening statement and restates it here. And it was like, dude, although his speaking style is nowhere near as collected and professionally presented as Johnny Cochran's was. So he kind of stumbles through some of the parts, whereas Johnny was, very, very precise and measured and well paced in his presentation. There's some video out there of them side by side, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was a poor man's imitation of a good criminal defense, but what he got right was what he was trying to imitate. The other good, like one of the little subtle things he did towards the beginning goes deep into Milwaukee politics and culture, so that he basically set this up as the powerful white establishment, the way he portrayed the lawyer in terms of immigration, well respected, well regarded, part of the really saying white political establishment in Milwaukee chasing down a black man to make a point. And people may not know, Milwaukee is one of the most segregated cities in the country. The degree of racial prejudice is high in the city, has been for a while. Milwaukeeans kind of try to deny it, but a lot of people that fled to the suburbs are just not. Their perception of Black America is North Milwaukee, and they basically locked them up. Martin Luther King went through South Milwaukee after going through Cicero, and he said the same thing about South Milwaukee. He said about Cicero, he said they should bring Southerners up here to teach them how to hate. So that was kind of the background of some of the politics there. I've taken a lot of civil rights cases in Milwaukee. Police have not been particularly competent. Frankly, Sheriff Clark was an utter bumbling idiot. And to give it examples, I had a case where a person was in custody, and he had a severe medical condition that was causing him to seize. He was drooling. He was pounding his head he was seizing to where his head was pounding on the ground. He was, urinating on himself, defecating on himself. They convinced themselves, and these are mostly black guards, but they were just so inhumane. They got whether that was the conditioning of dealing with prisoners or that was their pre-orientation, and that's why they took the job in the first place. Whatever the dynamic was, they convinced them that he was doing this to humiliate them. And so they treated him worse and worse and worse and worse until he was dead. They literally dragged him around like a garbage bag and dumped him off. I had a jury, the white suburban jury. Now, part of this is the Black Lives Matter politics, racializing things that weren't racial and so on and so forth.
Sure.
making it worse. But we got the biggest settlement in the history of the city out of it. But that was only because the prosecutor couldn't read the jury, or the city attorney couldn't read the jury. And because I didn't realize that we were about to lose a case that seemed unlosable because of the degree of jury hostility. That down deep, they didn't see my client as any more of a human being than those jailers did. And there's a lot of that. I mean, there was the jail was a disaster in Milwaukee. There was several pregnant women that they stuck in isolation, 8.5 months pregnant. One of them woke up with her dead baby. They ignored her screams all night. They've refused to settle that case. If anybody talks about it in the press, they actually tried to go after my co-counsel in the case because he simply talked about the case. And then another one died. I mean, it was just a lot of things like that. And that was the background he was playing to. If he managed to get a jury that said, we don't presume flight is guilt, he got that kind of jury that is sensitive to those set of issues. And he was playing on those heartstrings and that history, whereas the prosecutor really didn't address any of it substantively in terms of the emotional issues and some of those issues. So it's like people were writing back to me saying if I'd watched the trial they thought he was definitely guilty of first degree. And I'm like, that may be the case.
Yeah.
But if the prosecutor then did a poor close, in my view.
Yeah, it looked like
mostly didn't pick a good jury.
The jury ended up being six white, six non-white, with 4 of those people. I think the judge said it, 4 of the jurors being black, specifically. And so it looked like,
and probably 2 Hispanic then.
They didn't say
specify. Probably there's a little West Milwaukee Mexican American population there in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Now they too have not been treated great by the political power structure in Milwaukee. Right.
And so it looked like to me, based on, I mean, they deliberated very quickly, and they didn't. It was like 2 hours, I think, and one of those hours was lunch, and so very quick deliberation, and they came back with a compromise verdict on first degree reckless. And it's like, I mean, there's no way the fact pattern fits first degree reckless, because he points the gun at the guy's face and pulls the trigger, and then four eyewitnesses.
So it wasn't second degree imperfect self-defense. It was that he didn't intend to kill him.
Because
that's reckless.
The only fact
is he thought that he didn't think the gun acts. So
he said the gun went off. He said the gun just went off,
so
and it was at his
actually
hip.
credited that testimony, or it was just. I mean, normally a jury puts a moral narrative, sticks it on the verdict form, and that's what you're getting.
I think it was the moral narrative, because there were some things. I mean, the guy's wife, the widow, she appeared to lie on the stand, not about anything consequential, but it was why you're sitting here trying to protect your dead husband's legacy, I guess. And like, for example, he had a 0.12 BAC, and she swore on the stand that at most he had 4 beers. It's like, guy's 250 pounds. He's 6'3". There's no way this guy had a 0.12 at 4 beers. It's just not happening. I wouldn't have a 0.12 at 4 beers, and I'm significantly lighter than that guy. So I don't think that was a thing. And then she swore that he didn't use any profanity. And it's like, lady, a guy comes up and punches him in the face, he's gonna use some profanity. Like, it's everybody. It's okay. It's okay if he said, "Get that motherfucker." That's
Did
to
she
be expected.
explain why did they chase him down? Like, that was the other startlement for me. I just seen little scuttlebutt, but I did not know. I just thought it was a traffic dispute where the guy shot him, not that they followed him and chased him. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, if I was somebody on a bike, if that's all I know is seeing that video, I'm not inclined to think first degree murder on the defendant's part, just because it feels like I got chased down at night. I would expect that they're not getting out to, and especially if I punched that same guy in the face and I was trying to get out of Dodge, I would not expect that they're asking me for my insurance card.
Right. So with what happened, she explained that she was driving and her husband said, "Follow him. I want to talk to that guy, or I want to confront that guy." But again, she was kind of unreliable on how she was relaying her husband's words. It was probably, "Don't let that motherfucker get away." Because
exactly.
And
why did she go along with him. Like, I mean, if I'm in that car, I'm thinking, I don't want to escalate
Let's
this.
just go home.
Yeah, yeah.
That's-
Especially usually the
that's
wife. The wife is. I mean, I could see if he was driving. It's like fuck
Right.
this. Da, 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 da. But I was like, I mean, what Alec Baldwin's wife? You know, we got to get those. You know, it's like, whoa. It's
Yeah,
you know, unless they probably never tested her, did they? I was wondering if she was drunk too.
They never tested her. The defense alluded to that, and they really focused a lot on this empty can of White Claw that was in the back passenger seat,
That was
because
smart.
it wasn't tested.
It plays to Milwaukee jurors' perspective, particularly African American, some of the Mexican. It would be, you know, little uppity white lady drunk on White
Well,
Claws.
she was not white.
Oh.
She was not white. She was she's dark. I don't know if she's black, but they
Maybe
had
Latino?
her. If she is, she's very dark Latino.
Really?
She actually had black style hair in court that day. So and they may have done that to her. They may have had her present a little bit more black, but I don't know. I don't know. Filipina is what people are saying, or Puerto Rican.
Asian. Okay.
But yeah, so she was. I mean, she was not white, but you know, she's married to a white man, and so that plays into that same stereotype, though.
And if it's Filipino, there's a lot of Asian African American conflict, you know, in Milwaukee and other places. But the I mean, famously, what led to Rodney King was the prior Koreatown dispute. That had, and then of course the Koreans became famous for protecting their property during a lot of that. But there was, you know, certain backstories that led up. There was a history of just because what happened was you had a lot of immigrants who came in and took over shops and stores that other people didn't want to service anymore. But they're predominantly African American community, and that just created natural conflict, and that shows up in a lot of urban centers across the country.
This is off topic, but real quick. Is that judge, the Ninth Circuit judge, is he the former Roof Korean defender?
I don't know. I saw some references to that, but I honestly don't know.
He's got the same name, and the age checks out. It's
really?
Like, because that would have been what, 92, right? Was when the LA riots were going on. And so like, and the guy in the picture's like 24 back in 92. It's like, okay, yeah, that guy's judge aged now. Certainly. So, and of course he's the guy putting out all the good opinions on guns from the Ninth Circuit. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, it would still surprise me a bit if that was the case, but you never know.
Yeah. So back to Edgecombe. Yeah. So she testified that her husband told her to follow this guy. And so she did, you know, she just did. Like, it was pretty quick. And she followed him, and then he got out of the car, and he walks and kind of, he speeds up, but this is a big 53-year-old man, 52-year-old man. So it's not like an Olympic level sprinter chasing him down. And this is one of the problems I had. Edgecombe waits for him. I mean, clearly could have gone down the steps with his bike and rode off, and it would have been over, but he waits for him. And that guy, he kind of sets up in a boxer stance. And then Edgecombe, according to 4 witnesses, points the gun directly at his face and pulls the trigger before the guy does anything, nothing in his hands. Edgecombe says there might have been something in his hands, and he testified that the gun was down at his waist and just went off, and it was an accident, which I thought, man, your self-defense case went out the window when you said that to me. But the prosecutor really hammered on it.
Is reckless homicide a lower sentencing range than second degree intentional?
Then second degree, I don't know. It is lower than first degree.
Than first degree, yeah.
Yeah, because first degree is life without parole, but this one is max of 60 years for first degree reckless.
He's got to bet. He's got, from a defense perspective, a judge that's probably going to go as high as he can.
I would say he's going to. I mean, I hedged my bet and said 35 years, but I think he's going to go over 40 because he gets the accelerated 5 years added for use of a gun in the commission of the act, and so he probably will. Second degree, I think would have topped off at 40. second degree reckless. I don't know if second degree intentional, but second degree reckless would have topped off at 40. This tops off at 60. So it's very possible that he's going to, plus he's, 2 bail jumpings and firearms related offenses pending at the time that he did this. I mean, it's very, very possible he gets 40 to 60 years.
How did they introduce, or maybe he just made it up in close, evidence that he was a guy with a good reputation in his community?
Who, the victim or the shooter? They never went into him having a good reputation in his community. I thought
there was a reference to that in close for some reason.
Oh wait, there was a little bit. He used to own a nonprofit. He used to own a nonprofit. He testified to this, that he ran a nonprofit. It was to help guys with troubled pasts have second chances, was the idea. But they didn't really get into it. But apparently that went south in 2016 for whatever reason. I don't know if it was, maybe just got tired of it. Who knows? But that ended there. But yeah, so that came in, and I think that they were permissive on his character evidence, in part because they had the bail jumping evidence because he ran. And so they were able to, because he ran, they were able to talk about the bail jumping in addition to the consciousness of guilt sort of evidence that they brought in. But this prosecutor really didn't hit on this guy's reputation. He didn't get too specific on the criminal acts that he was accused of, and he probably could have. He probably could have asked exactly what all of them were. The door was open, and the judge said, "I agree, that door is open," and he still didn't go into it. So the prosecutor, I don't think he was trying to run this guy all the way in. He seemed to run a pretty clean prosecution. I think he was really worried about appeal issues, maybe because of the type of lawyer that he hired, worrying about trying to spectacleize anything that happened.
And he might be worried politically. He might want a conviction, but not necessarily get too many hits.
Someone in the chat brought up something hilarious. So that there were times that the defense is just having a bad day, like fate was against them. And one of the best is Officer Waldo, we'll call him, because he looks exactly like the Where's Waldo guy. And he's the most dull testifying patrol officer you can imagine. He's sitting there answering questions like this and very, very bored. And so B. Ivory starts cross-examining him. And they brought him in on direct because there was some guy who was standing by the police tape and they didn't interview the guy. So they were trying to make a big deal that there was a potential witness that they didn't interview, but they had no indication this guy was actually a witness in anything other than just a gawker. So that was kind of the end of the testimony. Then on cross, the state prosecutor gets up and he starts talking to this guy and he's like, "Now, you know a lot about bikes, don't you?" And he just perks up, right? And you're like, "Uh-oh, we found his hobby." Turns out this guy went to one of only 2 accredited institutions for bicycle mechanics that exist in the country. And he's the guy. They showed him the surveillance footage. He's like, "That's a GMC Denali bike. You can tell because of the way the grip shifter works, and it still has the ram horns on it like a road bike. So to do that, they have to cut the bike handles in half. They have to put the grip shift over, then they have to reattach the bike handle and then put the ram horns on. It's a really inconvenient way." This guy's just going on and on about this bike. It's like, what are the odds that the patrol officer that they decided to call happens to be a bike expert who identified the guy as having this particular bike that they were able to then track down? He lights up. It's like, it was at that point that I knew there was actually a conspiracy against Theodore Edgecombe. I was like, there's no way that this happens.
Why do you think, what was was he just, in a confrontational mood?
So the story goes, and this story comes from the wife, and there's the competing story comes from Edgecombe, but it is, both of them have some recollection of this. The wife and the husband were driving down the road, and then there was like a double parked car. And when they went around it, there was another car coming around it that they had to avoid. And Edgecombe is on his bike right in the mix of that. And so her testimony is she swerved to avoid Edgecombe. And that's when her husband said, "What the heck?" according to her. Apparently, more likely he said, "What the fuck?" And that's what she actually told people on the phone that night and stuff like that. But she stuck with "what the heck." Anyway, Edgecombe's story is that she actually swiped him with the car, knocked him off his bike and onto another car. And so he gets back on his bike, catches up to him, and that's when that punch is thrown through the window. So that's the story of how the confrontation starts. The problem with it is, despite them checking a couple blocks of surveillance footage, they can't even see that confrontation occur. Now, something must have happened because they both testified to it. The wife had no reason to testify, like to talk about that at all.
Right.
It's completely against interest. Because a much better story for the dead husband would be if this guy just pulled up on his bike and threw a punch in the window. But apparently there was a thing. The cops couldn't find any video of it. The defense made a big stink about how the cops couldn't find any video, or they said they didn't try hard enough or something. And the kind of counterpoint was, your guy was on the run for 6 months. By the time he came back, all of the footage had been deleted, but they did talk about all of the different places and all of the hours of video that they watched. They showed video of the exact spot that it was alleged to occur. And then of course, then it must've happened farther down type thing. So it was a mess, but it all started with this traffic swerving and either hitting him or not. There's no damage to the bike. He reported no physical injuries. They didn't identify any scrapes on the car or anything that would be attributed to the bike. But it was kind of a dumpy Kia Soul. So who knows? I mean, it wasn't like in the best shape either. But yeah, so that was the genesis of the event. And then
is his just like state of mind just confrontational? He's carrying guns. He thinks that they try to run him off the road. So he's like, screw you, punch you in the face. What does he punch him in the face and then he takes off?
Yeah. He just, so he
and
rolls
so when he
up
sees
next
him
to
coming
him.
back, he's like, screw you. And he comes out with a gun and boom.
Yeah, that's kind of how it looked. When he rolls up on him, the window's down. He says, "Hey, were you talking to me?" The guy says, "Yeah, I was talking to you." And so then boom, he just punches right in through the window, hits him hard enough that his glasses fly across the wife and down into the driver's side well between the door and the seat. So, I mean, knocks his glasses clear across the thing, lacerations on his face from the glasses as well. Then he rides off, and then that's when they follow him. And yeah, when the guy comes up,
why in the world, if somebody randomly came up and punched me, I don't chase them. Just instinctively. I'm like, that's someone that, old saying, never mess with anyone that has a higher threshold of pain or violence than you do.
Right.
I mean, that communicates this person's either not all there or has got a lot of issues. Unless I'm going to shoot them for whatever. I mean, I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, it was that certainly. I mean, not that the guy should have been killed, but he bears responsibility. Of
course not.
Right, but he bears responsibility through his actions. They're a bad choice. I mean, if I'm in Milwaukee or Detroit or Chicago, and I get hit by by a man on a bike, I'm not going to follow that man. Like I don't have that much pride. I'm going to find the exit.
Yeah, avoid that guy.
Yeah, maybe try and get my cell phone out and take a picture or something.
Especially if I'm a 250-pound lawyer, that's not going to work out. Unless I've got some prior, super secret history of something. That's unlikely to turn out well. Yeah,
and in my experience, very few people have a sufficient super secret history to actually it's a street fight. One punch will put you down. They're not wearing gloves. There's no ref. And what happens after that punch it's not worth it to me.
Well, it's like what real fighters do. Real fighters avoid fights with random. I mean, they get out of there. I mean, Rogan talks about this frequently. It's like, I don't know what these people are thinking. There's so many things can go wrong. Obviously he didn't know he had a gun, but I just found that part of it. I was like, man, that was really a dumb move.
So what my buddy Ty always talks about, and maybe there's some truth to this, this guy, I mean, the lawyer, he's older, but he is 6'2", 6'3", and 250 pounds. So he is a big guy. And maybe he has a history of getting his way just by physical presence and intimidation. And, and when when that gives way to age, the attitude doesn't always do that. So he might just be used to getting his way. And so he thought, I'll go step up on this guy. Probably didn't realize how big I am. And then who knows what he's thinking, because he's drunk.
If exactly. He and his wife are drunk, gets pissed. So he's like, this guy hit me. Screw that. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Not thinking, what then? What next?
Right. So
it's the reason why so many, it's criminals' problem is they have I call it one-step IQ thinking. And I always remind people, it's not criminals, it's the caught criminals. There's people say, oh, criminals have lower IQ. No, the ones that are caught have a lower IQ. But it's because they think, well, oh, it'd be great to steal that. And they don't think, how do I get away with it? That just doesn't enter the brain.
It's a nice refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on a bike. It's not going to work, buddy. No. So that was, there's a lot of that one-step thinking.
If that
going
trial
on.
takes place anywhere outside Milwaukee County, he gets convicted of first degree.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was surprising to me. The reckless was surprising on the facts. Cause again, and the prosecutor put it out there. The medical examiner testified too, that, the way the bullet entered the forehead with a very slight upward trajectory. Right. B. Ivory's testimony that the gun went off somewhere around his hip as the guy was spearing towards him in a tackle, which would not enter this way. It would enter, like this going down. And so I don't know that anybody bought that testimony. It didn't make any sense. But I think it was a compromise verdict. They thought, there are probably some people who had some issues with how the case was presented, and maybe some issues with how the police conduct themselves in general.
Well, he did all the little increments correctly. I mean, the big one was picking a jury that doesn't see flight as consciousness of guilt by necessarily. You're in the game, and then you throw in racial angles, the political background, cultural angles. You play to them. You're making an important ruling and decision. You make it an emotional and visual appeal, and you stay away from certain problematic aspects. You make them sympathetic enough to they think, well, he probably didn't plan on really killing him, but what he did was wrong. So let's split the baby. He's not going to necessarily save him much if he's faced 30, 40 years. I mean, that's 20 years. You get about halftime in Wisconsin typically.
Yeah, and and this judge could easily go the full 60.
There's some, the mean judges in Milwaukee.
This judge might be one of them. Borowski is the guy, and he's
Polish.
He's a joy to watch.
There's a lot of no nonsense judges there. It's a mixture. There's no nonsense judges, corrupt judges, and mean judges, and a few decent judges.
Borowski seemed to be on the no nonsense side, but he does. I mean, he has a reputation for being pretty harsh on some issues. Like he jailed a public defender a couple years back in court, which is pretty good. But with this one, the defense team got their paralegal thrown out by being stupid twice. So that was amazing. One of the witnesses was this guy who he was across the street on a smoke break. He worked at like a cafe or something right there. And he and this other guy witnessed what was going on. And apparently the paralegal came up and introduced herself to this guy, after the incident. And his impression of her was that she was a police officer, that she represented herself as a police officer, whether she did or not. This guy didn't. I mean, he was very calm, right? He was very calm. I'm not sure what was in the smoke for the smoke break, but he's a very calm individual. And so who knows what his perceptions, if they matched reality. But the state found out about it and informed the defense, hey, you've got a witness who thinks that your person showed up representing themselves as a police officer. I want to let you know. And the defense swore that didn't happen. Well, then the guy points her out in the courtroom and says, she came up to me and represented she was a police officer. So Borowski's pissed at this point. He's like, you had your paralegal do investigations. She's a witness. She can't be in here. And then he let her stay in. But then the next day, right before, I think it was the wife's testimony, they were going to, and this is just a dumb plan. on cross, they plan to introduce her dead husband's Facebook profile through her, which I mean is just dumb because you don't want to lay foundation on a hostile cross-examination typically. Right. But so they're like, Judge, can we have a couple minutes? He's like, 2 minutes. And then they come back in and their paralegal wasn't back yet. And he's like, I want to start. And they're like, well, she's coming. We want to introduce these Facebook posts. And the prosecutor objected. They were going for his character for peacefulness because his Facebook bio said, we probably won't get along. And they wanted to introduce that. So
like 4 doors, more whores.
Yeah, except maybe even less relevant. And this judge he didn't want to hear anything that was a waste of time. And so he's like, that's not relevant. Why are we doing this? And then he's like, where'd the Facebook posts come from? And they're like, well, they're screen captures. He's like, who made them? We did. Who? And so then they're like, oh, the paralegal. And he's like, sidebar now. They go into chambers. He comes out. He yells at him again that they've now made their paralegal a witness in the case, and she's out of the courtroom for the rest of it because they're trying to introduce evidence through her. It was just a boneheaded move, and they really should have known that at that point in the trial that this judge had no time for anything like that. And I don't know why you're going to have her bring these screen grabs in trying to authenticate them through the wife. Like that's just a bad plan in general.
Oh yeah.
I mean, have an investigator do it.
Well, of course, you have an investigator do all of that because you have to anticipate what's the point of the investigator. The point of the investigator is to develop information. That's one thing. But if you're ever planning on presenting evidence of it, you want somebody who holds up well, and you definitely can't be part of the legal team. That creates all kinds of problems. So, right. I mean, they can be hired under the attorney-client privilege, but you want an independent investigator with a good pedigree who looks good on the stand. I used to hire a lot of ex-feds, old school FBI guys from the Hoover days who, have a lot of accommodations, and they get up there and they also know the game. They know how to testify well. They've done it for a very long time. And that isn't, I mean, it's only in state court. I mean, but of course, we saw in the Rittenhouse case, crazy, only in state court, there's crazy stuff like where people even try that you can even ever get away with it. Like that's where in federal court, real strict on the rules. There, you can't get away with anything like that, trying to sneak it in. Definitely not on the defense side, but generally even on the prosecution side. The courts want a highly professional, within the rules process. A state court can be wild. Not as wild. I mean, I think a lot of people that have only watched the Rittenhouse trial think the way the judge handled that case is normal. That's totally not utterly foreign to federal courts, but even abnormal in most state courts.
Well, he was Schrader was so permissive on evidence. There was no, he didn't care. He'd never even heard of foundation or relevance. Those things just didn't exist in his courtroom. He's like, just whatever you want to say about it's fine.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Exactly. Just stick it in there. Just bring that in. More hearsay, another hearsay, double hearsay, triple hearsay. Why not?
Fine. We'll let the jury sort it out. They're pretty good at figuring out what hearsay is. I mean, most lawyers can't do it, but the jury will be fine. Figuring that out. No, that was Schrader's court was very weird, and I don't know if his court is typically that weird, but it was very weird.
That's his reputation.
Okay. It was, I mean, I like him as a judge in general. He's very personable, affable. And it seemed like when he does run his court, he runs it okay. But man, his evidence rules were just, there weren't any. Borowski was not that way. He sustained several objections to relevance. And he was so irritated with the video. This video of the shooting was played, I think, a grand total of 5 times. And this is maybe 3 minutes of video, right? So, I mean, between 15 and 30 minutes of video has been played of this incident. And Borowski says, I'm tired of this. This video has been played over and over and over. We have watched hours and hours of video. Like, no, you haven't even come close to an hour. But he hated it. He hated any delay and repetition. He shut down cumulative evidence right away. It was like, oh man, this is actually kind of refreshing. It's like some guy out here cares a little bit about the rules and wants to just get trials done.
And a lot of them are like, They like
okay.
efficacy, and the only like I had a case where a judge, I had repeated something about 8 times through the trial, and the judge shut me down. And at the end of the trial, the jurors were like, "Man, there's this one key fact we would have liked to have known." And it was the one I talked about 8 times that the judge shut me down from repeating. Because judges think jurors process information in ways they just don't. Sadly, I mean, you have to hammer it over and over and over, or they will not get it at all.
When the judge is supplementing what they're hearing in court with the file that they've read and reviewed parts of, they've heard motion hearings on it. They've heard evidence that's not being allowed in court. So they've developed this robust picture. The jury hasn't. But the judges get tired of hearing about it. I think that's probably what happened with Borowski is I think in the Edgecombe case, he had probably reviewed that video tons of times because they've brought it up at pretrial over and over. He's probably reviewed it with his clerks a couple times to see if they need to clip anything out or if anything's inappropriate. There were edited videos or edited copies that were submitted that he would have had to review. So, I mean, he's probably thinking, I've seen this so many times, the jury's seen it, and really they didn't. And the same thing came up as in Rittenhouse. They wanted jury question came back. We want to review one particular video. He gave them one time to watch it, one playthrough, no commentary from any lawyers. And they came into the jury room and they watched it on the big screen or into the courtroom, watched it on the big screen right there. It was a minute, 15 seconds. And then they were out. And that was it. And it's like, there, you got to hear it again. Now, please go decide the case. I want to go home.
Exactly.
But it was pretty interesting. I thought it was a great trial to watch because the prosecutor acted ethically, appeared to act very ethically. He seemed to be overly conscious of it. We didn't see the pictures, the coverage. They didn't show the really graphic pictures, but he only showed one picture of the headshot, and he censored, he blacked out below the eyebrow because apparently the pressure from the bullet caused one of the eyes to kind of bulge or pop out a little bit. Which is gross. And so he even brought up at the motion in limine, he's like, Judge, this is my plan for I know they're objecting to this evidence, but let me tell you my plan. I plan to introduce this evidence just of the gunshot because we want to show the stippling up on it. That's relevant here to first degree and how close it is. And it's also beneficial to them because of how close it is. But we're not going to show anything below that because the eyes are a little disturbing. I don't want to harp on it. I'm not going to show any other pictures. And the only other gore that was shown was in the video of the first responding officer. And it briefly pans down for a moment and you see a little pool of blood below his head because he's on the steps. He kind of collapsed onto the stairs. And so there's a little pool of blood, but that was it. I mean, it was not like Kim Potter where they're showing this dead guy 50 times in court and judge. Okay. So, but I like that aspect of the trial. I thought it was very useful to see a prosecutor doing their job in what I would consider more of a correct way than Rittenhouse and Potter. Speaking of prosecutors who aren't doing their job maybe at all anymore, have you heard that there's a rumor out there that attorney Thomas Binger is no longer a Kenosha County DA.
Oh, really? I mean, I know he had political ambitions, but those might have got slightly derailed. But no, I had not heard that.
Yeah, that's I can't confirm that yet. He has no appearance. Well, he had one appearance before Schrader, which was the Zeminski trial, which turned into a shit show right before it started. Guessing you heard about that.
No, I did not.
Okay, so outside the courthouse, as Zeminski is coming into the courthouse, photo Chad, Nathan DeBruin, gets out of a car. He's got the photo, and Zeminski confronts him outside the courthouse, allegedly saying, let's see the photo. Show me the photo. That's not me in the photo. That's not me. They brought it up to Binger. He didn't say anything. So they brought it up. I think DeBruin's attorney brought it up to Schrader. And Schrader recommended charges for Zeminski for witness intimidation. And so he suspended the case out another couple months. And I have heard through the grapevine that Binger may not even be prosecuting it now because he may be off of it. But that was the only calendared thing he had in front of Schrader after Rittenhouse. Everything else is gone.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And,
So maybe he's heading out.
Well, the rumor from the courthouse is that Schrader actually removed him from his court, particularly after Rittenhouse.
Oh, wow.
And then the new rumor is that after that Binger may have accepted a new position somewhere else. I'm not sure what it is, but
Interesting.
it's kind of wild. I was very curious because we listened to that interview and he made a lot of statements about the judge that seemed improper. But if Schrader had basically removed him right after that, then he probably felt free to say whatever the hell he wanted at that point.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
But yeah, if you hear anything through any of your Wisconsin contacts, it might be pretty interesting. What else am I? There's some other stuff I was gonna. God, I got so much to talk to you about. UCL. Oh, you're frozen up. No, you're back. Okay.
Okay.
The UCLA professor, former professor who sent the manifesto.
Yeah.
Did you have you seen any of them?
Just bits and pieces of it. Did I freeze? I may have. Oh, no, it's Nick who froze. Okay. Yeah, maybe he'll be back in un segundo. Nick is frozen. Wow, it's usually me. They cut him off. He thought UCLA professor. Well, answer questions in the chat. Whoa, I think we lost him. Maybe he'll come back in. I've taken over the Nick Rekieta stream. Okay, why not? Could have some fun. The the unbreaded, that's funny. The Barnes After Dark, yeah, that's not bad. The Alone with the Chat, yes, that probably is dangerous. The I'm assuming Nick will come back soon. The yeah, Nick's banned suddenly. Yeah, exactly. The oh, what cigar? This is a special edition Monte Cristo. That's really quite good. The best Cuban cigars generally are limited edition Cuban cigars. Those are the higher brand. They actually do it A brand, B brand, C brand, and D brand. They don't really publicly disclose that, but it'll be for different markets. And the A brand is the best, but even better than that is the limit. You don't know that unless you have some connections. But the limited edition ones are generally the best. Like, so if you're in Canada, you're somewhere traveling around the world, if you can get a limited edition Cuban cigars, those are the best. You can actually still get pre-embargo Cuban cigars in San Francisco. So the at the Fairmont Hotel, there's a little shop there, a guy that has a cool old, cool clothier shop for men. And he bought up a bunch of pre-embargo Cuban cigars, and he's really maintained them well, including old like Monte Cristo No. 2 from 1959, before Papa Fidel came in and, cigar quality dipped, that are really excellent. Let me double check that Nick hasn't messaged me. No, he hasn't. So wherever Nick is. The yeah, 19. It's about $200 a stick, so a little pricey, but worth it if you want, one of those bucket list items and you're a big cigar fan, because they're by far the best cigars ever that are available today. No doubt about that. Now, Charlie Sheen did give me a 1980s Davidoff cigar back when they were making Cuban cigars. That was actually very, very good. Just gave it to me as a gift. Thoughts on Nick Fuentes? I think Nick was someone who was trying to figure out his space and started out kind of as a Ben Shapiro imitator, that kind of thing. Then saw the opportunity presented by the true alt-right and decided to go into that space. And my personal view is that I think it's a little bit of a David Duke imitation, is my view. I don't think he actually believes a lot of the things that he says in that context. Don't support, if he's on a no-fly list or anything like that. That'd be ridiculous. But not a fan of Nick for those reasons. The 3 more minutes and the channel legally belongs to Barnes. Yeah, that's a good idea. Good contractual claim. Yeah, what's the old adverse possession? Adverse possession. Do you recommend Red Handed? Yeah, it's right behind me. Peter Schweitzer's book, excellent book. It detailed, I was aware of the degree of which China had tried to influence American elites in universities and through grant funding and through a wide range of other activities, both legal and illegal, licit and illicit. I was not aware of the scope and the scale. I wasn't aware. It's very well documented, very well detailed. Aha. Nick is back.
Yeah. We'll see how back I am. My internet died completely. So I'm up on my cell phone here.
The chat did suggest that I may have an adverse possession claim on the channel now.
No, this is Minnesota. You got to have at least 20 years here, buddy. Yeah. So I might have to figure something out here because I'm literally holding the phone. But I can't really see the stupid super chats and stuff. But I might have to grab a solution on this if my internet doesn't come back in the next couple minutes. So
do you have it how do you have your internet? Is it through satellite, through
No, it's through cable internet. And it's but I have no idea what happened. It just suddenly shut down. It was great. Could be maintenance. Who knows? They're supposed to email me when they do maintenance and they never do. So that's great. So I'm now on my cell phone.
Actors.
But yeah, could be. It's the Canadian government probably. They're still mad that I don't recognize the CBC.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, so I might have to go grab my phone tripod here in just a second and and grab my tablet. So if you want, I'll be right back. Here, you guys.
I'll answer some questions in the chat.
I have Chandler Halderson's parents right here. No worries.
Oh man, is that a full skeleton?
Yeah, we bought it from a chiropractor. Here, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go get my stuff. I'll be right back.
No problemo. Free Hong Kong. That's an interesting topic. Castro. Yes, indeed. For those who don't know, those rumors have been around for a while, and it's because of how well he looks like him, but also because of the other issues, both Fidel's tendencies and maybe Mama Trudeau's tendencies. The Bone Zone, yeah. I don't know if you guys ever saw that art exhibit that was going around for a while that had that was the body exhibit, I think.
Oh baby,
you're back.
Actually, I'm going to go grab my phone. It looks like my internet's back up, so I'll be right back.
Voila. Is that a cat? What image? I didn't know he had that that image. That's funny. Michael Avenatti trial. Yeah, that's man, he boned everybody, didn't he? I was one of the people that helped precipitate those criminal prosecutions. As soon as I knew of his reputation before, we had crossed paths in some other matters. Just sort of ships passing the night kind of thing. But his reputation was well known in LA for who and what he was. Had a long history of questions and problematic behavior.